Okay, here's the hands mounted onto the movement, and yeah, this was a pain in the ass. Well, the hour and the minute hand weren't too bad, but that last one, the second, just to balance it on the very tip, very tricky, most time-consuming part. Besides making sure it lines up. And as I mentioned before, and I just couldn't videotape this, but what you want to do is either have the dial off so you can see the date wheel, and what you do is when you want to set this all to 12, and you want to do it when it when it ticks over at exactly at midnight. So you just slowly, just wind the stem, pull it all the way out so you're setting the time. Wind it, not wind it, but advance it. Then you can't tell because the hands aren't on there, but once the you start to see the date wheel move, and you might be able to feel it if you happen to have it covered. But basically, yeah, you just slowly do it so that just as it slowly, you know how it creeps, as soon as it clicks into place, that's where you probably want to stop it and leave it there. And then you should know that it is exactly at 12 o'clock. So if you had a date window and or day window, mostly the date, then that would ensure that it clicks over exactly where you want it to, right at midnight. Because a lot of times, it does it maybe sometime after midnight, depending, maybe even before, but usually I think it's a little slow anyways, these date windows and the Seiko movements. So anyways, that's the first thing you want to do, and then leave it out so it's locked, and then put your dial back on if it's not on yet, and then just carefully align the hour to 12, lock it down with the hand setter. It's a little tool with these little plastic ends that help you push it in, and then you do it with the minute, and lastly with the second. Seconds is really hard because again it's very tiny, this tube that's at the back end of the seconds hand, and it has to fit on this real tiny like pin that comes through the center, and that's it. And then once you got that, it looks like they're all at 12. Advance the time and check every hour. See if, when the minute hand's at 12, the hour exactly pointing at the hour marker that it's supposed to. Mine was a little off. So what I did was, I got it to a position basically 6 o'clock. And then I just used a flat tool to just push carefully over across the surface, not to scratch it, and touch that hour hand, and then nudge it in the direction I need it to go. I think it was a little behind, I forget. Either way, you just kind of gently push it and then advance and check it again, and that's basically it. And then it's a little bit back and forth, possibly some fine adjustment if you want it as precisely as possible. And that's basically how you put the hands on and set it, and so it reads correctly. And I gave this a wind just to make sure the second hand wasn't stuck, but I installed it correctly. It wasn't hung up on anything, and it's running. So far it seems to be keeping good time, but I'll have to check it later, probably after everything's reinstalled. I'll run it and just time it, and if I need to, I'll go back and flip it over and get to the regulator lever and regulate it myself, and that's it. Okay, sorry I couldn't video the actual process of putting this on. It's very difficult to show you on screen and while trying to do it myself. That's just not gonna happen, but that's the basic procedure. I hope that makes sense, and that helps at least in some way. Thanks.